This is the E-commerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Hello and welcome to the E-commerce Braintrust podcast. I'm your host, Julie Spear, Head of Retail Marketplace Services at Acadia, alongside my co-host, Jordan Ripley, Director of Retail Account Management, also at Acadia. And today we're joined by our good friends, Ross and Damiano, the masters of retail media. And we're going to dig into a topic that can often be a point of, yes, interest and excitement, but also great challenge. And it's the idea of omni-channel budget allocation. So they're going to share some insights and strategies and lessons that they've learned over the time of partnering with brands across the long tail of retail media. So with that, Ross, Damiano, welcome. Glad to have you on the pod again.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, great to be here.
Excellent. So one of the first things I wanted to dig into was getting a little context around the topic. When retail media networks first started really taking off, the perspective was that retailers would eventually build out like a full funnel suite of ad products. That it would be akin to Amazon across all channels. But fast forward to today, and that's far from the case. We know that. Not every retailer is actually the right fit for the stage of the funnel or every marketing goal. And so it's a shift from like the hopes and dreams to reality. How did we get here, and what does it actually mean for how brands should be kind of thinking about retail media in their overall strategy now?
This is a great question. I think like the way that we got here, I feel like is that there's the initial gold rush from the retailer perspective of like, all right, we've got to get in here, and there's like a clear opportunity to capture advertiser dollars to like help them promote their products on our retailers. But then there was a very, very wide breadth of strategic approaches to how to do that. You know, some retailers kind of went all in. Some retailers outsourced some of their retail media network, and some outsourced it, whole cloth to third-party services. So I think that would be my take on how we got to where we are today.
I think also this expectation that like you could just flip a switch and turn it on, like that it was a technology solution and only a technology solution, and not the fact that these were people that got really good at retail. Like you think of your old brick and mortars, and it's like they were great at supply chain operations, in-store merchandising, and the idea that they could just flip on a sophisticated retail media network was perhaps all of us being a little bit too, a little bit too positive about what might come out, and not the 15 years of development that Amazon had poured into this as a digital first retailer, not even as a store retailer, right? So they had less conflicting priorities there.
And just the quantity of data that, it's kind of no coincidence that the retailers that have the more sophisticated systems have the most amount of data just from their customers consistently. So, the smaller the retailer is, kind of that almost pairs with the capabilities that they offer.
Yeah. Some flywheelisms I see coming through here. Mm-hmm. So I think now the question then inevitably becomes like, you as stewards of your brand's media dollars face this important question, right? Like you have all of these sorts of goals that you're trying to achieve across the funnel, and then you're trying to marry that with this whole portfolio of retailers that exist. So I'm knowing that not every retailer can serve every purpose nor every stage of the funnel. Can you just talk through you're onboarding a brand, or you're starting at the beginning and they're present on these various channels. Like, what are the sort of high level order of operations that you're going through to understand, like, yes, this could be a good channel, this one likely won't, based on like that conversation with the brand?
Yeah, I think that you obviously, it will sound very simplistic, but just analyzing each retailer for the brand from top down, what retailer is generating the most amount of sales, from a market research, which retailer generates the most amount of demand for the product that they have, which one has the best competitive advantage, et cetera, et cetera. And then once those, let's say, initial points are discovered, I think that it's really important to start analyzing from a media perspective, what each of these retailers then offers in terms of just the very basic metrics, in terms of could be CPC, could be CPM. If, even if it's search, I think calculating CPM is always really beneficial to understand for every dollar that I spend, how many impressions can I get? And then so on and so forth. I think just even having a very simple exercise of putting those metrics all together, one after the other, I think can really open up the brand's eyes into understanding where the opportunities lie. However, it is really, really, really important to understand what each of these metrics mean and how they are calculated, because that is not so simple, let's say, when you're dealing with so many different retailers.
Even just outside the ad considerations, which are like really important. One of the things we found working with brands over the course of the last few years that maybe is very self-evident to like the shopper marketing world, but wasn't really evident to like many of the brands who were Amazon first and didn't have that capability or that role, is that there's like a big business strategy element to omnichannel as well. So, a brand might be getting on Target shelves for the first time. And so there's like a business reason to invest that isn't necessarily having to do with the scale or the effectiveness of the media. Or a brand is trying to like cozy up with Walmart to get better terms on their next JBP. So they're like maybe heavying up their investment, or maybe they're pulling back their investment to try and, put the gears into Walmart as well. So there's this like business strategy element, which has to be taken into consideration above and beyond the like raw retail media effectiveness of any channel.
I even heard a very, very interesting story that someone would target the employees of a particular retailer so that they would just consistently see their brand image, their brand everywhere, so that they could go onto shelves. It's ingenious, but it worked.
Note out there to retailers, if you're seeing a new brand, they want to be on your shelf.
If you get retargeted just extremely heavily, just ask yourself a couple of questions before signing any contracts.
Well, you started to touch on this a bit, Damiano, but the idea of metrics when you're talking omnichannel is so tricky because it's not uniform across channels and not all metrics carry the same weight. Some can look great on a report that you report up, but it really does nothing to really drive the overall business goals or strategy forward, ROAS. But from your perspective, what are the metrics that really do matter when you're evaluating omnichannel media? And what are some of the those vanity metrics like ROAS that brands should be careful to not place too much emphasis on?
Mm-hmm. For me, I would say that what are the core metrics are the core metrics that everyone talks about all the time. The impressions, the cost per click, the CPM, the conversion rate, new to brand rate, all of these things are they are there because they are so important, right? They just kind of really depict the picture of how your media is performing on any given retailer. Then for the second part of your question, which was around which are the vanity metrics, I don't think that there are any vanity metrics. I think that that they can be called vanity metrics when you don't understand how they are calculated and how they work. Mm-hmm. So one of them I would say is probably Target, Roundel Media Studio. The ROAS can be a very, very much a vanity metric, a lot higher. Your ad sales sometimes are even higher than your online sales. And sometimes we would scratch our heads and say, well, why is that? Well, it's because for every campaign you have to set up the attribution window. And so if you don't have the proper setup, then immediately what happens is that metric, ROAS, ad sales, whatever the case may be, will vary so vastly from the other retailers that you're looking at. And so I just think it's really important to understand how things are calculated. And then from there, you can kind of on an even playing field say, okay, now I can take everything into consideration. I know new to brand also gets calculated very differently across the various retail media networks. Is one right more than the other? I don't think so. I just think that you have to put it all into context.
And an important of sort of starting with the first principle of what are the goals of this brand, right? If I understand that new to brand is most important to them, then me as retail media manager can then rationalize that to the various retailers and their strange nuances. But it's like you need that partnership of the brand coming to you, understanding their business and what they need to drive. And then that's where I feel like you, Damiano, you, Ross, can step in and be like, yeah, Target is weird, but there's some good things we can pull out of there to drive that.
We've had a lot of good conversations with brands where the goal has been like they want to grow the online business and they don't care about growing the in-store business. And, they face a lot of challenges when they're trying to invest with retail media because the consumer you don't get to control how the consumer buys. I can put my ads in front of the consumer and they can choose to pick up in store because that's most convenient for them. That is very much the case with especially the Walmarts and Targets compared to Instacarts and Amazons, right? Like there's a big bifurcation there in what retail media can do for your business. And so we've had some brands say like, my online sales are not doing anything. And I'm like, yeah, but your store sales are growing fantastically. So like,
correlation,
change your goals.
Yeah. Or don't have some like dumb budget silos that are
right. Yeah. Scott Waldron on our team said this really well the other day in a LinkedIn post. He's like, your KPI is like KPI that you're responsible for is not the only thing that matters. It's like if the brand experience is to like just drive, you want the brand experience to be really good. So if you only care about online sales and, that's not growing, but the brand experience is effective, like that has to be the ultimate goal at the end of the day.
Wise words. Let's talk a bit about assortment strategy, because I think this could be another tricky part of the omni-channel strategy. Often brands have to line up with retailer goals, but media planning comes after those decisions are made. So kind of a chicken and egg question here. Do you think that assortment should lead and media follow, or can media strategy actually help shape assortment over time?
Oh, yeah. This is a really great meaty topic. I think that like your media strategy has to follow the assortment in many ways. Like, because we look at almost first and foremost, like, well, what is the unique assortment of any one platform to decide where we place our bets, because those are the ones that are most likely to have a competitive advantage and not cause map issues and not cause eligibility issues like across your omni experience. And then, secondarily, like we found there's been many cases with a lot of our brands. I was joking about this with someone recently where like we're able to see, through media performance, like which products are performing best and help the brand then, adjust their pack sizes, adjust their offerings, like introduce new flavors. Damiano, I know you've got quite a few of these under your belt.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that I agree 100% with everything. That first, the assortment kind of then dictates the media strategy. I would say that, of course, if there is a golden opportunity that you see, I think you can kind of bend the rules a little bit. I would also say that the one thing, just working with a few omnichannel clients, is if you can provide any form of retailer exclusivity, and that doesn't have to be a completely different product. It can be a different pack size, a multi-pack, or whatever the case may be. That's just very unique to a particular retailer. Those products typically perform well. You don't have any conflicting interests with other retailers. You can just kind of push that a little bit more solidly. And then, of course, that becomes almost, you try and push it to become your hero product also in advertising, and just invest a lot more into that product. So that's kind of what I see in terms of assortment. Yeah, I would just say about that.
How much of I think a lot of times the type of shopper that I give it, like the Costco shopper is different than the Amazon shopper, which is different than the D2C shopper. And I'm just wondering, like, how much does that obviously that influences assortment, right? I'm going to go a larger pack size on Costco than I might on Amazon, where I'm trying to do more customer acquisition. But how much does that influence the media strategy when you're like the retailer itself? Like, all else equal, are you thinking like, oh, I'm going to have a higher AOV so I can go harder on this channel versus a different retailer? Or that's like a nuance that's sort of specific brand to brand?
Yeah, I think that you can definitely look at that. So as we were mentioning before, just kind of putting all those metrics together and then understanding which kind of lever you want to pull and where you see that opportunity. However, Ross and I often say this is like, we're kind of retailer agnostic. We don't really it's not that we don't care. It's that it's that we really don't know where the customer is going to purchase from, right?
Sure.
So we don't know that they can start their journey on Amazon and be served an STV ad while they're watching Prime Video, and then they can go on to Costco and purchase that product. It's very difficult to kind of draw that line if you don't have very sophisticated tools.
Yeah.
And so from that point of view, I just think kind of one of the very first questions and one of the first things that we're talking about was just also, not only putting the metrics side by side, but also putting the retailer capabilities and seeing where and how you can reach your customers along the funnel, and then trying to create that full brand story, that full brand feeling, let's say, not in one siloed approach, but across all of the brands. So no matter where they purchase, they always know that they're getting exactly the product that they want from the brand that they want.
Yeah.
Because it's not almost boiling down to that the shopper for each channel is different. That's the same shopper going to multiple channels. It's where you're catching them and what their needs are and what their goal is for that exchange with the marketplace at the time. It's the same shopper. So the cohesive brand experience and how you can show that in your media strategy as well is critical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all right. But Damiano, you touched on something that I want to, poke at a little bit, which is, this idea of technology sophistication and its ability to guide our media allocation strategy. I know this is something that we are exploring with our analytics team here in terms of media mix modeling, MMM. It's been around for decades, but now looks a lot different than it did previously, particularly in terms of how it can kind of intermesh with retailer strategy. So I think we could do a whole episode on MMM, and maybe we will. But for the purposes of today, I'm just wondering, where do you see the solution of MMM fitting in with this idea of omnichannel strategy and budget allocation? Where are we at with this, and where do you see the industry heading around that specifically?
I personally think that it's going to, that, like you said, it's been around for a long time, but I think it's going to take even more kind of space and even more discussion whenever speaking with brands. Just because right now, as we mentioned before, these retailers, they do not communicate with each other. We have kind of no way to see an investment in Amazon. How does that then influence Walmart, Target, and all the rest of the retailers? And so just having a technological solution that can somewhat indicate whenever we pull these levers, this is the correlation that we have, then hopefully enough correlations can then point to a causation.
Mm-hmm. I think it has to evolve, candidly. I think a lot of MMM was developed with it's not a simple task at all, but I think the framing was maybe somewhat simple. If I invest X in channel X and Y in channel Y, which one is going to have the most effective impact, and where should I invest my next dollar? Where's the diminishing return coming in? And I think what we found in retail media is that the story around how we're placing our bets is not channel specific. We are always engaged in deep conversation with our brands on what is the effectiveness of our conquesting strategy on Walmart versus Amazon? Where should we invest more in generic keywords on Amazon or Target? Or is Target just a defensive play because there's no incrementality to our non-branded keyword efforts? So with that conversation, the MMM conversation needs to evolve as well to not just be about channel investment, but what is the strategic investment? What has been in your investment by goal? What is your awareness investment on Amazon done to sales velocity across all these other channels?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'd like to wrap up our conversation today with a bit of a game.
Oh.
if your game,
surprise,
it's a challenge. So, Ross, Damiano, you guys have gone through this topic in a presentation in the past with a group. And when you did it, you guys were the challengers and presented challenges to groups to solve. And so today we're going to turn the tables and you're going to become the challenged. Challenging. Defenders, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to share a scenario with you. And I really would love your perspective based on your experience of how you would navigate this. You ready?
This is it.
This shouldn't be that
You respond at the same time and the fastest wins. It's like fastest finger.
Get those buttons out that we sent you.
Exactly.
Here we go. So you're a premium beauty brand and Amazon is growing 15% year over year. Walmart has just announced a new program for premium beauty. How do you pitch this idea to your GM? Go. Oh, you're too polite.
Yeah, no buzzers. No buzzers.
I think for me, the first thing is the most important barrier when it comes to explaining like an opportunity like this is for like to get the CEO's buy-in on like what the value of Walmart is here. So for us to be able to say like, the Walmart of the past is not the Walmart of the future. We see people shopping on Walmart that normally, especially online, that they would never have shopped at Walmart before in store. And also the fact that there's like premium, like now a premium segment, and also we can point to some other metrics that Walmart is cracking down on like third-party resellers. So like really trying to tame the Wild West a little bit in terms of like limiting resellers and giving brand like control over like the gating of their products means that Walmart has entered a new phase. Like it's not your grandpa's Walmart, maybe is the way to describe it. To make your C-suite or your team understand like that this is not just another bet. There's actually a fundamental change in Walmart as a retailer that is there to be taken advantage of.
Anything to add, Damiano, or you echo?
Yeah, no, I echo it. I would also, the only thing I would just add, kind of being always devil advocate to my own CEO, I would say, does Walmart provide kind of that brand cohesiveness that we are looking for, right? Like if we can answer yes to the question of, is the Walmart customer a person we want to target, we want to have as a customer? And there's an answer yes. And then we look at that premium beauty template and we feel that we can effectively provide that brand story or that brand telling capability, and we have that, then yeah, sure, let's absolutely do it, because for sure the capability is there. And most probably if you're doing it on Amazon, the person shopping on Amazon is probably also in some capacity shopping on Walmart.
So this is where you guys would be a great tag team to communicate this need, because Ross, you're going to establish that, yes, your customer is on Walmart. And then Damiano, you're going to go for the full brand cohesion. I like it. It's a very, very good approach. I think tag team is a strong strategy as well, proven effective.
Good cop and gooder cop.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for coming on and talking about, this really is a timely and important topic for so many brands. So thank you for sharing your perspectives and some concrete ways that brands can look at the omnichannel opportunity themselves. Thank you.
Awesome. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.